evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a very busy Friday night. And just 24 hours ago, last night, the U.S. was within minutes of striking Iran. But President Trump suddenly stopping the strike before it could happen. When news of this broke, President Trump at first today saying the U.S. was, quote, cocked and loaded, ready to target 3 different sites, saying he called it off with 10 minutes to spare. It was meant to be retaliation after Iran shot down that U.S. drone. So what was it at the last minute that abruptly had the president halting the mission? ABC's chief global affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz leads us off.
Just 24 hours after the drone shoot-down, which Iranian TV claims can be seen in this fireball, the U.S. military was minutes from striking back.
They made a very bad mistake.
Despite that mistake, and after a day of urgent Pentagon preparations, a stunning change in plans around 7 p.m. last night. The U.S. military was ready to launch warplanes and warships at Iranian targets until one final meeting between the president and members of his national security team, where Trump made his dramatic reversal against the advice, say sources, of National Security Advisor John Bolton and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Even some conservative voices on the president's favorite news channel were urging restraint.
He knows it will define his administration. He knows that it doesn't serve American interests, but that people who work for him are pushing the United States into a position where war is very likely, if not inevitable.
This morning, as Iran was displaying images of wreckage they say they recovered of the drone, Trump confirming overnight reports. At 9 a.m., tweeting that 10 minutes before the mission was to be launched, he changed his mind. We were cocked and loaded to retaliate last night on 3 different sites. When I asked, how many will die? 150 people, sir, was the answer from a general. Trump later telling NBC he stopped it because it would not have been a proportional strike.
They came in, and they came in about a half an hour before. They said, sir, we're about ready to go. I said, I want a better
Planes
definition.
in the air? Were planes in the air?
We're about ready to go.
Yeah.
No, but they would have been pretty soon. And things would have happened to a point where you wouldn't turn back or couldn't turn back. So they came and they said, sir, we're ready to go. We'd like a decision. I said, I want to know something before you go. How many people will be killed? They said, came back, said, sir, approximately 150. And I thought about it for a second. I said, you know what? They shot down an unmanned drone, plane, whatever you want to call it. And here we are sitting with 150 dead people. That would have taken place probably within a half an hour after I said go ahead.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it. I didn't think it was proportionate.
The Iranians claimed today that they, too, made a humanitarian decision, deciding not to shoot down a manned U.S. P-8 surveillance plane they claim was in Iranian territory. A P-8, which usually has a crew of 8, was in the region, taking this image of the drone falling into the water, but was in international airspace. But it was passengers aboard commercial aircraft who appeared to be in the greatest danger over the Gulf of Oman, with a flight track showing the missile passing just miles in front of a civilian Qatar Airways flight.
This is completely irresponsible action by the Iranians to shoot a missile just miles in front of a commercial airliner. If the radar track had shifted from the drone to that commercial airliner, we would be talking about hundreds of people who would have been killed by this Iranian missile.
Very alarming. Martha Raddatz back with us live tonight. And Martha, a lot of pressure within his own administration, as you reported there, to move forward with this. But tonight, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi relieved, saying she's glad the president held back. Take a listen.
A strike of that amount of collateral damage would be very provocative, and I'm glad the president did not take that.
She went on to say the president needs to de-escalate the situation. And now, Martha, the White House and the administration will take concerns over Iran to the UN.
They will, David. The U.S. has called for a closed-door UN Security Council meeting on Monday to discuss Iran, with the president seemingly dialing back military action for now, saying he is in no hurry and believing the sanctions are working. But this standoff with Iran is far from over, David.
Martha Raddatz with us again tonight. Thank you, Martha. We are also following those massive explosions in Philadelphia, the largest oil refinery in the East erupting in smoke and flames. Fireballs igniting the sky. The blast felt miles away, homes shaking. Communities on lockdown for a time, and one driver saying he could feel the heat wash over him while sitting in his car. Tonight, the fire is still burning, and ABC's Whit Johnson is on the scene for us.
Oh my gosh.
At least 3 blasts starting around 4 a.m., rocking people from their beds in South Philadelphia.
We just had an explosion, heavy fire.
A giant fireball soaring above a sprawling oil refinery, the explosions shaking nearby homes, knocking artwork off the walls. The strongest so intense it was seen on these satellite images. Debris raining from the sky.
It was this boom, and everything just lit up.
The concussion felt miles away in New Jersey. Hazmat and fire crews rushing to the scene. Chris Stein, driving on nearby I-95, sharing this dramatic video.
It was a mushroom cloud. You could really feel the heat coming from that explosion in the car.
Tonight, the fire is contained, the cause under investigation. Officials initially concerned, issuing a shelter-in-place warning, now saying air quality tests showed no danger to the public. Philadelphia Energy Solutions confirming 5 employees suffered minor injuries. This marking the second fire at the same facility in just 11 days.
And Whit Johnson joins us live tonight from that refinery in Philly. And as we've said, it is the largest here on the East Coast. Officials saying tonight the refinery is operating at reduced capacity, as you pointed out, Whit. So what could this mean for gas prices, at least here in the region?
David, this complex here processes 335,000 gallons of crude oil each day. AAA tells us the fire here could slow supply, so don't be surprised if gas prices in this area jump 5 to 10 cents in the near future. David?
With Johnson tonight, Whit, thank you. There are new developments this evening in the deaths of American tourists in the Dominican Republic. In fact, authorities before the cameras just a short time ago with autopsy results. This as we now learn about the 10th death in the last 12 months. Here's ABC's Victor Oquendo.
Tonight, the FBI telling ABC News it has a small team on the ground in the Dominican Republic assisting with the investigation into American deaths there. This as we're learning of another American tourist dying in the country. State Department officials confirming Mark Hurlbut from Arizona is the 10th American to die while visiting resorts across the island in the last year.
There weren't a lot of answers, and we still don't have a lot of answers yet, I don't think.
Hurlbut's family telling our Dallas station he told his wife he felt sick the night before he died last June. Local officials determined the cause of death was a heart attack, but his family says he didn't have any heart issues. There's no indication that the 10 deaths are connected.
No existe.
Today, the DR's Minister of Tourism pushing back on reports, saying there are no mysterious deaths, adding the fatality rate is actually lower than some previous years among the 3 million Americans who visit, saying what some media have characterized as an avalanche of deaths does not correspond with the reality that we are seeing today. Officials are awaiting the results of toxicology reports, but families of those who've died anxious to hear more.
Nobody can give me a solid answer on how she passed away.
And late today, the family of the couple who died called the tourism minister's remarks repugnant. David, the State Department has said they've not seen an uptick in deaths. David?
Victor Oquendo with us live tonight. Victor, thank you. And next this evening, new images here of the TSA attack in Phoenix. 5 agents were injured. Surveillance shows a man pushing through security at Sky Harbor International Airport, knocking down an officer and trying to punch others. Here's ABC's David Curley.
The shocking pictures tonight of the 19-year-old man barreling through a Phoenix TSA checkpoint and swinging at officers. As he starts to push through a scanner, an officer tries to stop him. She's thrown to the ground. The suspect then takes swings at 2 other officers. Tyrese Garner was finally subdued.
I always think, oh, well, there must be something wrong, or he must have been high.
Police say they were unable to determine if the young man, who was yelling and making noise during his interview after the incident, was under the influence or unstable. One of the officers was taken to the hospital, 4 others to urgent care, all released after Tuesday's incident. Assaults appear to be increasing at TSA checkpoints. There were 88 last year, but already 76 this fiscal year. The suspect faces 2 felony counts of resisting arrest and trespassing and 5 misdemeanor counts of assault against those officers.
David Curley tonight, thank you. We move on now to the severe weather threat heading into the weekend. Flash flooding and dangerous winds from Colorado to Tennessee. In fact, the system spawning a tornado near Redwood Falls, Minnesota, and violent thunderstorms in the heartland, lightning striking. This is near Kansas City, Kansas. Incredible pictures there. Let's get right to meteorologist Rob Marciano. He's live in Colorado, tracking it all tonight. Hey, Rob.
Hi, David. Winds gusting over 60 miles an hour in those storms in Kansas City and here in Colorado again tonight, where there's a severe thunderstorm watch up for Colorado Springs and parts of Kentucky. Big boomers rolling through there. We got the heat building from Texas to Georgia, so that'll spawn storms tomorrow from Savannah to Springfield. Also, Oklahoma City, as this cold front dropping through the Rockies, could bring over a half a foot of snow here in the Colorado Rockies tonight. David?
All right, Rob Marciano, thanks as always. We learned late today the Trump administration plans to launch a major immigration crackdown this weekend. ICE planning raids in as many as 10 cities beginning Sunday, targeting thousands of undocumented family members. Tonight, some authorities are urging families, if ICE comes knocking, do not open your door. Here's ABC's Mary Bruce.
Tonight, Immigration and Customs Enforcement is preparing a mass roundup of migrant families that have already received deportation orders. Pre-dawn raids, reportedly known as Family Op, planned for this Sunday in as many as 10 major cities. The director of ICE speaking on ABC News Live.
One of the greatest pull factors for families to come here is they know once they arrive in the United States, they remain here untouched. We have to change that message.
These kinds of raids typically target criminals, not families. Houston's police chief sounding a warning.
The last thing we need is to evoke that kind of fear where people go further into the shadows and they fail to cooperate with law enforcement at the local level.
The raids come just days after the president kicked off his re-election campaign by promising that ICE will begin the process of removing the millions of illegal aliens starting next week. At the time, a senior administration official told ABC those massive deportations were, quote, not imminent.
Immigration officials say they don't know anything about a planned roundup of millions of people next week.
Well, they know, and they're going to start next week.
The raids planned for this weekend are sweeping, but fall far short of the president's promise to deport millions. And overall, Trump is deporting far fewer people than Obama did at this point in his presidency.
Mary Bruce live in Washington tonight, and Mary, officials in some of the cities where these raids are expected already sounding the alarm tonight. In fact, we have a statement just in from Chicago tonight.
Well, David, the Chicago mayor says they will not cooperate with these raids, and they are warning people not to open their doors if ICE agents come knocking, saying they are not required by law to let them in. David?
Mary Bruce with us all week long. Mary, thank you again. Now to the major ruling from the Supreme Court tonight. The justice is throwing out the murder conviction of a death row inmate in Mississippi. Curtis Flowers claimed racial bias during jury selection that kept him from receiving a fair trial, a white prosecutor blocking black jurors. The Supreme Court agreeing 7-2. So what next? A seventh trial. Here's ABC's Steve Osunsami tonight.
Curtis Flowers has insisted to this day that he did not murder 4 people in 1996 inside this Mississippi furniture store where he used to work. His case is the subject of a popular series on Starz.
How do you put somebody on death row with a circumstantial case?
He didn't do it. Prosecutors never found a murder weapon or physical evidence tying him to the scene. And in today's decision, it was Justice Brett Kavanaugh, writing for the 7-2 majority, accusing the state of discrimination and allowing a seventh trial. His words were a slap to the prosecutor, saying that Mississippi's relentless, determined effort to rid the jury of black individuals strongly suggests that the state wanted to try Flowers before a jury with as few black jurors as possible, and ideally before an all-white jury. Justices Thomas and Gorsuch dissented. During oral arguments, some of the other justices were dumbfounded.
After that, every black juror that was available on the panel was struck.
Yes.
Flowers lost at his trials with nearly all white juries before reaching the Supreme Court. His attorneys point out that in the 2 trials where the jurors were a little bit more diverse, those juries were deadlocked. David?
Steve Osunsami, thank you. They return next tonight to the nightmare at the shore for a teenage girl in California getting bitten by sea lion while she was having fun in shallow waters. ABC's Adrian Banker tonight.
This video captures the moment a fun day at the beach turned into a nightmare for a California teen. 13-year-old Megan Pagnini attacked in the shallow surf, bitten on the leg by a sea lion.
It was just
Total fear. I started screaming as loud as I possibly could to see if someone could help me.
And tonight, as Megan recovers, a warning from Fish and Game officials who say that female sea lion who bit her exhibited signs of poisoning from domoic acid, a toxin found in algae. It can cause seizures in the animals, confusion, even death.
A sea lion with domoic acid toxicity will act disoriented and behave differently and potentially more likely to harm a human than they normally would.
Though sea lion attacks are rare, the animals are powerful. In 2017, this sea lion pulled a little girl off the dock and into the water. In the past 10 days, the Marine Mammal Center here in California says they've rescued more than 50 seals and sea lions, all affected by domoic acid poisoning. Experts say when you're at the beach, stay away from wildlife. David?
All right, Adrian, thank you. When we come back here to the index of other news in the deadly chase in Florida, an officer trailing suspects who sped away during a traffic stop, those suspects going the wrong way, crashing into another vehicle. After the police help another driver caught in that wreck, they try to pull the unresponsive suspects from the flames. That car ready to explode at any moment. Both of those suspects later died. It turns out genetics may play more of a role in heart problems than previously thought. A study in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology tonight suggesting your inherited risk of heart disease may be around 30%, not 20%. Doctors now say these new findings may impact the way heart disease is now treated. And the divorced man getting a lot less from his Mega Millions jackpot than he thought. A Michigan appeals court ruling that Richard Zalasko must share his $39 million after-tax winnings with his ex-wife. They filed for divorce 2 years before he bought that ticket, but the divorce wasn't final, so now he has to hand over $15 million. Ouch. And Mick is back, the legend posting these shots from Soldier Field in Chicago, where the Stones will make their triumphant return tonight. First time back on stage since Jagger's heart procedure back in March, and we love seeing that today. When we might hear our person of the week, he is 6'7", 285 pounds. He's a star, but not without thanking his mother first.
Growing up in South Carolina, Zion Williamson, it was clear, was going to be a star. He drew crowds at his high school basketball games, and his very first coach was his mother. In fact, she was his coach until he was 14. And just this week, Robin Roberts asking him what that was like.
What was it like being coached by your mom?
She was the hardest coach I ever had. Don't let that mom word fool y'all. We'd be in the car riding back home after my middle school games. My dad would be like, yeah, that was a great game. My mom would be like, what? Good game. You missed the pass there. You didn't shoot it there. Her being my biggest critic was the best thing for me, actually.
A grateful son, his hard work paying off. First at Duke. Look out the windmill with the left hand! Then last night, everyone thought he would be the #1 pick, and he was.
The New Orleans Pelicans select Zion Williamson from Duke University.
Though he knew it was coming, the reality of the moment was overwhelming. And his first hug was from his mother. Just 18, 6'7", 285 pounds, and he's grateful for that first coach.
My mom sacrificed a lot for me. I wouldn't be here without my mom. She did everything for me. I just want to thank her.
His mother, Sharonda, and his younger brother, Noah.
She put her dreams aside for mine.
To watch his hard work pay off and to watch this, we're so happy for him. We're so happy.
Tears streaming down his face. Zion on this moment.
I dreamed about this since I was 4. And for it to actually happen, I just thank God for it.
And so we choose Zion Williamson and his mother, Sharonda. Thank you for watching here this week. I'm David Muir. Thomas here this weekend. I'll see you on Monday. Good night.